Welcome to the Right Hand Roadmap, the podcast for seconds in command of founder-led companies. I'm your host, Megan Long, owner of Second First. In each episode, we show you the path to success on your journey as the #2 leader in entrepreneurial companies. I am so happy you are here. Today, we're going to talk about AI. I know I'm fatigued hearing about it right now too, as if it's some silver bullet buzzword. At our September 2nd First event in Nashville, members all reported how they were using AI in their business. And while there were some very industry-specific tools out there, ChatGPT was still the biggest use case. So how, as a COO, can you use ChatGPT to make your life easier? Well, it all comes down to the prompts you use. Before we start this conversation, though, a few notes. First, never feed an open language model proprietary information. Let's talk about Samsung. In 2023, a Samsung employee asked ChatGPT to optimize new source code, which was utterly confidential. Since ChatGPT retains all of the user input data to further train itself, these trade secrets from Samsung are now just part of OpenAI and could be given to other users. There was a second Samsung employee last year that entered meeting notes to convert it into a presentation. But the subject matter was also highly confidential. This is where the conversation of open source AI versus closed source AI comes into play. Closed source means you don't risk exposing what you have fed it to the outside world. It stays closed in your organization and just to the members that are using it. But you have to take the time to train it yourself. It's only going to be as smart as the information you feed it. You don't have the luxury of millions of people across the globe also training it. Now, millions of users across the globe using it all sound like a benefit in a lot of cases. But for that reason, I also would recommend against using ChatGPT for creative work. It's great for brainstorming, but remember that any answers OpenAI gives you, it could be giving someone else. So there's nothing unique to you and what you're receiving. Next, let's talk about apps. Every single executive I talk to feels like they or their company suffers from some form of app fatigue or app sprawl. There are just too many tools. We see one piece of software and think it'll solve our problems, but really, the more tools we use, the more complicated and decentralized all of our work becomes. So I want you all to use discernment in onboarding any sexy new AI application. Security is also a huge concern with a lot of these SaaS companies that are popping up. A resource I love is from Palo Alto Networks, which is a cybersecurity company. They have put together something called an Applipedia. I'll add a link in the show notes, but it's a directory of thousands of apps with a risk level 1 through 5 assigned to them. Based on Palo Alto's due diligence, you can search your software and see that risk level. You can see if they have any certifications like SOC 2. You can see if that application or that software has had any data breaches in the past, if they have poor terms of service, if they have poor financial visibility, or if they have IP-based restrictions. This Applipedia also lists if they're prone to misuse, if they're capable of file transfer, if they have any known vulnerabilities, or if they can tunnel to other applications. So before you look at any piece of software, I definitely recommend pulling up that resource and reading what they have to say. It also will save a lot of time because you don't have to do your own third-party vendor risk assessment. It's already right there. Okay, now that I have given all of my disclaimers, let's dive into 3 great uses for ChatGPT as a second-in-command or COO, and specific prompts that you can use. If you want just to download a PDF of these, you can do so at secondfirst.com/29. With any of these prompts, I recommend giving a quick introduction to ChatGPT about what type of business you are in, what your location is, who you serve, what your products or services are, what your role is. Just give it as much background as you possibly can to answer these to the best of its ability. Depending on what you're asking, you can also say, pretend you're my business coach, or pretend you are a consultant advising us. So that way it'll really craft its response in a way that you're looking for. The first use is to speed up decision making. So rather than starting from scratch when you are doing a risk analysis, you could, again, give it your background. Tell it what you're looking into, like what initiative that you're considering, and say, pretend that you are a business consultant and please provide a risk analysis for X. Additionally, you could ask it if you are looking to expand your product or service lines. You could ask ChatGPT, analyze the pros and cons of expanding our product line based on current market trends. The second great use for ChatGPT for someone in your position is to take care of admin work or help with productivity. So an example is we talk about providing executive summaries for your entrepreneurs or for your CEOs. Just a very high level summary of something with bullet points or notes underneath it. You could provide it with a report, again, assuming it's not extremely confidential and proprietary. Use this report to draft a 1-paragraph summary written for an executive CEO audience. Please provide bullet points summarizing each of the major points underneath it. Something along those lines. Second is to help with your calendar and your schedule. So you could provide a list of your current tasks and ask ChatGPT to create a time-blocked schedule for your day based on your current tasks. So you don't have to open up your laptop that morning and wonder, how am I going to get all of this done? It'll block the time for you and tell you exactly what to work on in order to get it all done. This next one, if you have detailed SOPs. So if you have documentation that is just extremely thorough, super step-by-step, lots of paragraphs, you can provide ChatGPT with those SOPs and say, please create a checklist using this documentation. So it'll take that sometimes way too detailed SOP and break it down into a very easy to follow checklist. An example I love of this is employee onboarding. So please generate a checklist for onboarding new hires on the operations team using this documentation. And then this next one is a little more personal, but it still falls into scheduling. So you can ask ChatGPT, please act as my life coach. I have X, Y, and Z, whatever your situation is, and would like to slowly begin incorporating more self-care into my life. Please draft a 30-day plan, including a sample daily schedule. Aside from self-care, I have also seen this be used to please create a meal plan and a shopping list for me. Please create a workout plan for me to slowly get back into the gym. Anything that feels a little overwhelming in your personal life, you can usually outsource it to AI. And then the third use for a COO with ChatGPT is to jumpstart your strategic planning. This is great since we are all coming up on our annual planning right now. I have mentioned before that instead of the traditional SWOT analysis, I prefer the SWT analysis, which is strengths, weaknesses, and trends. So trends means industry trends, market trends, anything outside that might be impacting your business or your industry. So the T can sometimes be a little tricky. So you can ask ChatGPT, give it the background, explain what your use is going to be. We are preparing for annual planning. We are this type of company. We are this many employees. We are located in this city. This is the product or service we provide. Based on this information, please summarize industry trends impacting our business this year. So this will give you that insight on market trends that might affect your operations for you to use in your strategic planning. Coming out on the other side of quarterly or annual planning, usually you will have a rock. Again, we have talked about this. Rocks are just priorities. It's a very specific and measurable and time-based priority. What is the most important thing for you to do in the next 90 days? What I usually see is companies or leadership teams will come out with that one or two sentences. Like, here's the priority, here's the end goal. But how do you break that down throughout the quarter into steps to make sure you have an actual checklist, a schedule? You know whether you're on track or off track. So if you give ChatGPT that rock statement, you can say, using this rock, please draft a 90-day plan, breaking it down into actionable steps with deadlines associated. So good. And then finally, most of you will have some sort of state of the company meeting following, especially annual planning, where you have to communicate where the company's going in the next year. What are the big goals? What are the big initiatives? Really to get everyone on the same page and excited about what you have ahead. So in using ChatGPT to accomplish this, you can say, here are the company goals that came out of our annual strategic planning as a leadership team. Please draft a presentation to communicate this in a way that will be digestible for all employees for us to present to the entire company during a state of the company meeting. Ideally, you will get phrasing that makes it very simple and understandable to every level of employee as you're communicating these potentially complicated goals for next year. Again, if there's anything you legally should not be feeding an open sourced AI, then don't. But hopefully, these give you some ideas to start using ChatGPT to make your work as a second in command more efficient. To find show notes and links for anything mentioned in this episode, visit secondfirst.com/29. Be sure to subscribe to catch future episodes and leave us a review on whatever platform you're listening on. Remember, you don't have to navigate being a second in command alone when you have the right hand roadmap.